Thank you, Jen. Hello, welcome, and special welcome if you've never been here before. I'm not going to make you raise your hands, and we're not going to stare at you, but just know that you're welcome and pretty friendly, so you can talk to anybody if you'd like to. Um, my name's Adam Stonebraker, and I'm the guiding teacher here. And yeah, I always like to start off with a little bit of sound or chanting, and I've been doing this thing lately that I really like. um, a sea of ohms. Mm, fancy. I saw some claps, so there's some fans. So basically, what we do is there's this ancient sound, ohm, and we just chant it 5 times, but not necessarily together. And this is what makes it cool because you chant the ohm as long as you can go, and then you chant it again, and then you chant it again, again, and again. So 5 times. And we all have different breath capacities and different uh, sustainability in our voices. So everybody, it kind of creates this wave like thing that happens. Also has this passive effect of calming the nervous system and bringing a sense of togetherness with all of us. So online you'll probably just hear me and you you and me together, and we have our own little sea of ohms. uh, So yeah, let's do it. You ready? Okay. Don't be. I'll start it out. So yeah, don't feel isolated. So let's exhale together and inhale. Oh. 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 Taking a few long breaths, feeling the vibration and the difference. And just simply allowing yourself to be here in this room with this mind, this body, these thoughts, finding this place of stillness, silence. It's always there. Most of the time, we're kind of focused on what's moving, the thoughts, the movements of the body, the sounds, the people around us. But noticing how all of those things arise out of and return to stillness and space. Just as the vibrations from the chant might still be there, but they're fading back in. And this is what meditation's all about. It's not about the what moves. It's about the space that holds it all. So allowing the breath to be a place of refuge, a home that we can come back to if we need the steadiness, if we need an object. But in the end, can we just simply be with what's here? Very, very simple, but very radical. A really nice place to rest into is at the very bottom of the exhale. So we inhale and then we can just let the breath go and gently. Just notice that space between the next inhale, the end of the exhale, and the beginning of the next inhale, that space that's there. And just let go into that space before you inhale again. So the exhale's nice and long, letting go, relaxing. The ends, there's space. And then the inhale nourishes. And the exhale releases. I think one of the Buddha's most overlooked instructions in meditation is relax. Relax your expectations. Relax the doing. Relax the trying to be something. Just relax and let be. for the final few minutes here, just connecting to the space of the heart, connecting to the kindness that is here, allowing that to spread through the body. Again, kindness for this body, kindness toward this mind, this conditioning, this psychology, this human life. We call it 10,000 joys and the 10,000 sorrows. Comes with being human. And if you like, you can radiate that kindness out. Maybe you just stay with yourself, that's fine too. Radiating out in all directions. Knowing that all humans have joys and sorrows. And through our understanding of ourselves, we can have compassion for others, human and non-human. Going back to this breath, this body, this ground. For those of you online, I'm ringing the bell now. take a little break, around 5 minutes. We'll bell and come back 5 minutes. Um, and let's keep this room silent for people who just want to stay in the field. That was some really nice silence, by the way. Um, and if you'd like to talk, you can do so out in the lobby or the library, but not too loud because the sound does travel in this building. Yeah, thank you. All right. Everyone's so still and quiet. It's nice. I like it. I appreciate it. And so arriving back from a little break time, just feeling again, right in. What's this like? The weight of the body, the breath moving in and out. Simply being here, nothing to fix or improve or anything like that. Just here. Sensing into life itself. We tend to get very caught up in the mind, but feeling, the presence of the elements here, the 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 steadiness of the earth, the warmth of the room. Uh, we'll all feel that a little bit differently. Maybe a lack of warmth, or too much warmth, or just right. The air moving through the lungs. All the people that made this night possible, going back years and years. We have these Monday nights every Monday, but there's a whole history behind them. There's a whole, production that happens. Various people coming together to make this happen. So I think it's really nice to reflect on these things. What makes things possible for us? This is the beginning of what in Pali we call Kataññu, which means gratitude, awareness of what's been done for us. And every month I write a theme for the month, and this month was gratitude. And that's what I thought I'd talk about tonight. But I said there are two people are hard to find in this world. One who first does a kindness, and one who is grateful and thankful for a kindness done. And if we, that might not be so true here at Mountain Stream Meditation, but we don't have to go too far out to see this. There's this really beautiful teaching that actually comes from this teacher named Atisha, who was actually Bengali, uh, born in India, and he taught this teaching, which is still taught today in many Buddhist lineages, called the four thoughts that turn the mind towards the Dharma. And the first thought is a contemplation of the rarity and value of the human birth. And I find this contemplation to be very, very profound. We might not find it that profound, because humans are very, very difficult. Our birth is very rare. I'll try to explain this a little bit more deeply. So, out of all possible realms of existence, we find ourselves here in this room, right here, right now. We're able to reflect, we're able to love, we're able to awaken. And this is no small thing at all. It's actually a very, very big thing. Very- We have bodies that can sit. We're all sitting in here. Capacities. minds that can contemplate. We have hearts that can open, traditions that have allowed the Dharma to reach us, teachers, teachings, language, relative safety. All of this is exceedingly rare. I've talked about many times this Dharma Center is very rare in this country. There's not many that are like this. There's not many that exist. And something desirable is even more so when it is rare. So the rarity makes it all the more precious and valuable. So there are, I looked it up today, 8.3 billion humans on the earth. 3 billion. And it says that by 2100, which will probably, most of us will be gone by then, probably all of us in this room, it'll be 11 billion. And that seems like a lot. And it is a lot. It is. But this earth contains many other living creatures. So every human body is host to trillions of beings, various kinds of bacteria and other microscopic creatures. And these creatures, in their time and their space and their scale, are just as alive and just as vivid as we are in our own lives. And then beyond these trillions, multiplied by 8.3 billion, so each person has trillions of beings. Uh, there are, of course, many other larger animals out there that we can more readily relate to. It's difficult to relate to like a microscopic being. But the number of ants alone, I read this today too, 14,000 species of ants. Wow. So the ant population is incomparably larger than 8.3 billion. Not to mention all the water creatures and the sky creatures and the land creatures. If we could somehow add up all of these non-human beings on the planet, the number would be incomprehensible. Once I get past like 1,000, I'm just like I can't even comprehend it anymore. But if we contemplated all of this, all of these beings, it would definitely make human life on this planet a very rare thing right now. Not to mention history, not to mention the millions and millions, billions of years of history. There's a scientist who calculated uh, the likelihood of being born a human, and this is ridiculous, but it's 1 in 400 trillion. It's the likelihood of being born a human being. So it's no exaggeration to say that the human life is rare, that perspective. It's also sacred. It's also precious. So therefore, this living body, this experience that we're having is a really precious gift. And this human mind, this consciousness that has risen to the point where we can have identity and value and thought and beauty and choice is precious beyond compare. And this is why I love to contemplate this, because it's it's uh it's pretty ridiculous, what we have. And it doesn't even stop there. Doesn't even stop there with the rarity, as I already mentioned. The opportunity to be born in a time and a place, to be able to hear, to be able to study, to be able to practice the Dharma, or to even consider waking up, becoming enlightened. How many humans throughout history have just been born, tried to survive, and then died. They didn't have the luxury of trying to improve themselves or having a spiritual practice or doing any of that. Probably 99% of humans who have ever lived, even today, many humans that are born on this planet, that their one concern is survival. And to hear the Dharma, it's incredibly rare. There's this image from the suttas where the Buddha describes encountering the Dharma as like a blind sea turtle surfacing once every 100 years and placing its head through a ring floating on the surface of the sea. So you imagine this blind sea turtle once every 100 years comes to the surface of all the oceans and the entire on the entire planet, and just so happens to put its head through right through this ring. That's how rare this opportunity is. Ajahn Sumedho said, "We don't have to make ourselves grateful. Gratitude arises when we stop taking life for granted." And so we can feel that right now. This life itself, this life that's moving through us. This breath that we're breathing right now, this awareness that we have. Uh, we could call it grace because it's a really incredible thing that we've been given. And so what will we do with this one precious human life? To paraphrase Mary Oliver. And so we contemplate this and and gratitude naturally comes when we realize this precious opportunity we had. And gratitude begins to ripen when we begin to see how nothing truly stands alone at all. That this body is sustained by food, water, sunlight, and the labor of others. None of us would be here without other people. We all drove here on a road that was put down by somebody in a car that was made by hundreds of people. We had dinner that was literally the work of thousands, maybe millions of people to put that food on your plate. This clothes that we're wearing right now, how many people were involved in making these clothes from all over the world? I mean, it's really incredible to contemplate these things. This mind we have, wisdom shared with us, teachers, parents, ancestors, friends, even our ability to contemplate to hear the Dharma depends on millions and millions of practitioners over thousands and thousands of years who committed their lives to these things. And so we even just within our own practice, thinking back to how this practice arrived in my life and how many people were involved in that. And so when we recognize this web of giving and receiving, a sense of isolation begins to dissipate because we're intimately intertwined and interconnected in so many ways. We can't be separate. There's no possible way. And as we contemplate this, we think of non-self as this kind of, or not self, as this almost negative thing that uh, I don't have a self or something like this. But when we really begin to understand anatta, it just means that we're not separate. You know, we could also use the word emptiness. It sounds like a negative, but Thich Nhat Hanh's translation of shunyata, which is what we translate as emptiness, was interconnection. We're all intimately interconnected. So there's no separate me. We're all so deeply connected. Buddha often paired this word Kataññu with this word Katavedi. And so Katavedi is one who responds accordingly. So one who responds. Uh, and so the the Kataññu is knowing what has been done. So understanding interconnection, understanding this precious human life. And then Katavedi is living in response to that. And this is sort of what the Buddha asks us to do, is to understand reality as it is. And when we do, this creates wisdom, and then we act accordingly. And the most, and when we really contemplate this, the only thing that makes sense is to live with compassion. That's the only thing that could ever make sense. If we're this intimately connected, why? That's the only logical choice. Anything else is working against ourselves. And so there's this living practice here, this receiving and giving, remembering and honoring. Ajahn Pasano, who used to live at a monastery just a couple of hours away, he said, gratitude is not a debt to be repaid, but a way of honoring what sustains us. Uh, you know, so when we live with this giving and receiving, this kind of cyclical relationship, this trusting in life and how it works, we don't calculate or measure. We simply let gratitude move naturally. Um, and it becomes kindness and generosity and service and all of the things we do in the Dharma Center. It's the same movement as the breath, you know, receiving and releasing. We receive from the plants and we give back to the plants. You know, we depend on the trees to provide oxygen, and the trees depend on us, perhaps, to provide CO2. And this is how life moves. It's like it ebbs and it flows, it waxes and wanes, it pulsates, it's rhythmic, it's moving. You know. So it's important as we sit here to really feel into what's the actual reality. Is there really a deficiency here, or is it, you know, or do we have something to be grateful for? This interconnected web, this precious human life we've been given. Ajahn Chah once said, if you haven't learned to be grateful for what you already have, what makes you think you'd be happy with more? They're really like, well, we've all probably experienced that, right? Like we want that next thing, and then it's okay for a while, and then we want the next thing. It's like get more and accumulation. We see this throughout the world. A particular very rich man just got a promise to be paid 100 or promise to be paid $1 trillion. So we have our first trillionaire on the planet. Is that enough? Do you think that will satisfy this person? An unfathomable amount of money. Is that it? Is he done now? No, he's not done yet. So the gratitude shifts the heart from what's missing to what's here. And when the heart rests in this enoughness, then joy naturally arises. Enoughness brings joy, a joy that doesn't depend on anything external. And the Buddha describes this chain. So gratitude leads to gladness. Gladness leads to joy. Joy leads to tranquility. Tranquility leads to concentration. And concentration leads to insight. And so it's a practice. Nothing's outside of practice. Yeah. This is a we can call a natural progression of freedom. So this leads all the way to the to freedom. So seeing this world, this is what it means when we say seeing the world as sacred. Everything is sacred. But this brings up this question of what about when life hurts? What about when it's not easy? When gratitude feels very, very far away? And we've all experienced this. Ajahn Sumedho says, gratitude isn't pretending everything's fine. It's opening to life as it is, even when it's painful, and seeing that it can awaken us. Shantideva, who I love, wrote, where would I find patience if there were no beings to harm me? Uh, so this wisdom, this waking up, through that lens, we can say that even suffering becomes this field of grace in a way. The path to enlightenment begins with suffering. It shows us where the heart is still clinging, where love is still dependent upon conditions. And gratitude in those moments doesn't deny the pain. It honors it and listens to it. So the pain compounds when we think it shouldn't be there. When we can say that even this belongs here in this moment, that's what we could call mature gratitude. The that kind that includes all of life, the whole of life. As I said before, when gratitude ripens, its activity is kindness. It becomes kindness. A grateful heart cannot help but to care for others. So the gratitude receives and the kindness gives. It's the action part, compassion. And together they create this kind of cycle, this circle of awakening. Ajahn Mun. Got a lot of quotes. Ajahn Mun. A heart that remembers. Ajahn Mun is this guy. A heart that remembers kindness is a heart that does not wither. And so the kindness, it sort of helps to keep the gratitude alive through that activity. And again, it's kind of reciprocal. We might begin to see that to care for others is to care for the very conditions that sustain our own life. And so, what are some practices? I like to get practical here. So, what are some things that we can do to sort of make this a reality? Um, and there's a few ways I thought up. And so, the Dalai Lama. So, morning reflection. The Dalai Lama, this is one of my favorite things ever. The Dalai Lama says this: when you wake, before moving, feel the breath and silently acknowledge. Uh, every day, think as you wake up. Today, I am fortunate to be alive. I have a precious human life. I am not going to waste it. I am going to use all my energies to develop myself, to expand my heart out to others, to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. I am going to have kind thoughts towards others. I am not going to get angry or think badly about others. I am going to benefit others as much as I can. It's an aspiration, for sure. Doesn't always work out, but it's something we can aspire to. And this remembering of this precious human life, I have this hanging where I can see it, or on my altar, so I see it when I go there. Like I am fortunate to be alive. I have a precious human life. I am not going to waste it. And if you notice in this, there's this turning from self to others. So the motivation here is is for others' benefit. It turns right to others. Goes quickly from what's the action, from knowing that I have this precious human life, from knowing that I'm interconnected. It immediately turns from here out. I think I've said this before, but my first Zen teacher, he told me that, when you first start practicing, you're practicing for yourself. You're developing your own mind. You have to do that in order to create steadiness. He said, but then at some point, your practice takes this hairpin turn, completely turns around, and your whole practice becomes about others. Your whole motivation is about others awakening. And and so when you don't feel like going to your cushion in the morning, think of how going to your cushion will benefit others. And so every time we turn in that way, we make the world a little bit better place. We cultivate something within us. We're clearing out some of the clinging and some of the resistance uh, so we can make room for more kindness, more love, more gratitude, more awakening, more wisdom. Another thing is a recollection of remembering just people who have helped you throughout your life. This is really healthy. A teacher, a friend, even people you've never met. Uh, bowing in appreciation of these people. It's nice to do at the end of your day, or even at the end of your day, kind of thinking, through your day, even if it's the most awful day you've ever had. There's probably still something there uh, you can remember, even if it's just this precious human life. Before eating, or while eating, reflecting on the many beings and elements that have made this meal possible. Uh, this is a really powerful one, because what you start to realize is it's incomprehensible, and if your plate of food literally, as I said before, required the efforts of thousands and thousands and maybe millions of people. Not to mention the sacrifices of the living beings on your plate. So you may not want to do that every meal, but every once in a while, it's a really nice thing to do. There's this uh, journalist who did this. He wrote a whole book about it. He traced his cup of coffee that he got every morning. I forget the journalist's name. He's pretty famous. He's written other books too, and he's very entertaining. But he wrote this whole book about everything, everything that went into him getting this cup of coffee. And so there's the coffee itself for sure, and the water, but there's also, the barista, and there's also the cup, there's also the lid. There's also the machine that made the coffee. And so he can, he does this research, and he was just so surprised about when he really looked into it. It was the, millions of people coming together to provide this one cup of coffee that he gets every morning for $3. Well, it's New York, probably $7. Um, uh, and he just gets it and goes. It's a really interesting contemplation. When we're challenged or in a challenging situation, this is a hard one. So I say this with all humility. Uh, when something's really difficult, pausing and asking what is still supporting me here and now. It could just be the breath. It could just be the ground. But often we can discover many things hidden within the difficulty. And then the last thing I say is just expressing gratitude, expressing it often, uh, letting gratitude take form through our words, through gestures, through smiling, through an act of service, like even just a little hello or a little smile or any that can make somebody's day. I mean, we live in a society that's very it's better here in California, especially this part of California, but uh, telling somebody, giving one of the things I love about my teacher Kitasaru is I've watched him over the years, and he makes a point, and I don't know if he does this consciously, but he makes a point of going up to people and telling them what he appreciates about them, even if he barely knows them. Like, I really appreciate the energy you brought to that chant today. Or, it can be like really small things. I really appreciated your smile. I've heard him do it hundreds of times. And you see these people that's like transform in front of them. And it's a incredible habit, practice really. And so as we cultivate this becomes not just something that we do, but a way that we see, a lens through which we can begin to see the world. We're all looking through lenses of various conditioning, and one of the things we do in Buddhism is to develop positive conditioning or positive lenses, not unrealistic lenses, but ways of seeing things through a different lens. So what if I walk through the world with one of the lenses I look through was gratitude? Might look a little bit differently compared to like a lot of the lenses that I look through, judgment, fear. And it's very interesting when we begin to do this, it loosens our grasping, our clinging, our comparisons, our fixing, and it brings joy. It brings joy. As I mentioned, Kitasaru, one of my teachers, he's a very joyful person. And I think it's because he's practiced it for so long. It's just who he is now. Uh, and so what begins as a practice just becomes effortless. It just becomes joy. It just becomes your way of being. And this is from seeing life clearly. As I said in the very beginning, this precious human life, the unfathomable interconnection that we have, this is a reality. This is the most real thing there is. This this continuous act of giving and receiving. It's inseparable from awakening itself because it is awakening. It's the reality. We're waking up to the way things are. This is how things are. I'll just stop there. Let's just pause here for a moment. And so we just see this body or feel this body sitting here, supported, breathing, alive. You might even, if you want to, bring something that you're grateful for. Maybe it is just this life here in this moment, or this Dharma center, or this practice, or whatever. It's how gratitude feels in the body. Warm, spacious, alive. Could even use that feeling and spread it through the body in the space of the room. Like metta, allowing it to flow to people who you care about and who need it, even difficult people. They help us wake up too. All beings. And you might offer these words silently to yourself. May our gratitude become generosity. May our appreciation become wisdom. May our remembering uh, become peace. May all beings be held within this grateful heart. Thank you for your attention and for your practice. And all right, can open it up to some questions or comments or insights or whatever you'd like to share.
Great. I've got a mic, and the reason we use the mic in the hall is so people on Zoom can hear what we're saying in here. Can you start with your name?
Um, Hello, my name is Parisa, and I realized that it would be a really profound practice for me, for others, to ask ourselves what at each moment, what is the lens that I'm looking at the world through right now?
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be really helpful
Mm,
in awareness. Thank you.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, and thank you for that insight and knowing what the struggles you've been through lately. I appreciate your comment. Um, yeah, I feel like that's something that we're cultivating in our practice. Yeah, there's this teacher named Rob Bea who I really like, and he has this book called Seeing That Freeze. And so it's all about kind of the lenses through which we view the world. And it's through the lens of our conditioning usually. And so there's many ways we can see the world. Maybe it's through fear or survival or these various things, judgment, fixing, egoism, whatever it is. But you can also, see the world through the Brahma Viharas, like metta, through compassion, through joy, through awakening, through gratitude, through there's all these different ways, and it doesn't have to just be one. We can switch. Thinking of my optometrist, like getting new glasses. Um, but yeah, and so that's important. It's a really important. How am I seeing this situation? How am I seeing this person? How am I seeing myself? And that might be one of the most important ones. How do I see myself on this path of awakening? Do I really think I can become awakened? Do I really think I'm what kind of, how do I view myself as a practitioner? There's so many different lenses that we see the world, and seeing that backdrop is very, very important. Thank you.
Another question or comment from the hall, and I am looking at Zoom to make sure we're not missing anybody. Thank you. Start with your name.
Hi, this is Rory.
Hi.
So along the lines of looking through our lens, that changes too, because if I'm upset, or if I'm happy, or if I'm confused, that lens will shift and how I look at things will shift.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, another comment from the hall.
I just a comment on the helping others. The way I understand it, it in regards to taking care of yourself, which is also important. When you take care of others, you take care of yourself, and when you take care of yourself, you take care of others.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Very true. There's this part in the teaching of the Buddha where he kind of I don't, he doesn't really rank, but he's talking about, I guess he kind of is ranking like practitioners, like worst to best. It sounds really bad, but he said like the worst is someone who doesn't practice for themselves or practice for others. Uh, the next level is those who practice for others but not themselves. The next level is those who practice for themselves and not others. And then the highest is those who practice for self and others. So he ranks, if you're just practicing for others and not cultivating yourself, that can be incredibly more detrimental than practicing for yourself and not others, which I find really interesting. Do you think it would be those two would be reversed? But and that's what I say. That's why the Zen master made that comment of like you're practicing for yourself for a good portion of time, and then at some point when it'll just naturally happen. You just make that turn and you start to practice for others. But if you don't have the care and the love and the awakening within yourself and the wisdom within yourself, how are you gonna help others effectively? So yeah. Thank you.
Another comment from the hall.
Hi, this is Constance, who's got a voice that's sort of down tonight. But yeah, the Logan slogan that I love of Atisha is be grateful for everyone, particularly the difficult. And that they're the ones that give you the opportunity to practice. Without the difficult, how could we practice compassion or forgiveness or all those things? And that and Rilke talks about in the difficult are the friendly forces. In the difficult are the friendly forces, the hands that form us. Those difficult situations that if we can lean into being grateful for them, they could become teachers and bring forth our highest qualities. Or we could just go blah.
Thank you. Yeah, there's all these stories of how teachers, and back in India, back in the ancient times, whenever they'd travel, they'd always bring a few difficult people with them, just to keep them in check. And I think Atisha's one who, when he started to travel to Tibet, he would always bring one in particular very difficult person, and he made life very hard for everybody. But then when he got to Tibet, he said he didn't need that person anymore because all the Tibetans were incredibly difficult. I think it was Atisha. Yeah. That said that.
Hey, Adam, we have a question in the chat. Any thoughts on if and when gratitude feels fake? Thank you. That's from Suzanne.
I don't know if it can feel fake. I'm not sure. That's an interesting question that I will think about. But I've told this story several times, but there was a teacher that I was talking to, or a teacher on a retreat who someone asked, we were doing metta, and they said, whenever I practice metta, it just feels fake. It's just, it doesn't feel like sincere. And the teacher said, practicing fake metta is better than practicing real aversion. So I think practicing fake gratitude is better than practicing real selfishness, maybe. I don't know. I'll have to contemplate that. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, it is time. We're right on the hour, unless there's anything pressing. Well, let's just pause here. Close out. Much gratitude for this time we have together to practice the Dharma and discuss the Dharma. The Buddha said many, many blessings come from just talking about the Dharma and being in the field of Dharma. May the merits and the goodness of our practice be shared with all who we come in contact with, both known and unknown. Gratitude for all the teachers and all the teachings in their infinite forms. Gratitude to one another and to this mysterious, precious life. May all beings everywhere in all directions without exception be free from suffering and the conditions of suffering. Thank you all so much. Yeah. Good night. Safe. Way to hang out and get to know one another.